look at this machine. You have a transit mixer attached to this. So this transit mixer will pass the concrete here, and through this you're pumping the concrete and placing it. Similarly, you can see it here, right? Hello, my dear students. Welcome back to the lecture. So here we'll try to see what are the different ways of transporting of the concrete, and we'll try to see how a young engineer has to take care of the slab while it is being casted. So coming to the transportation, the first is a pans. So you can see, this is called a span. If it is a small, if it is a small footing concreting, or let us say if it is a column concreting, in that case we make use of these pans. So you can call this as a pan. In the slab, we usually don't go with this because a very small amount of concrete comes into this, and slab is a very large area. So we don't adopt with this kind of transportation. Okay. Second is wheelbarrows. So these are the wheelbarrows which we have seen, and most of the time whenever there is a slab casting happening, this is what we try to use. Next is a transit mixer. Of course, this is a from the batching plant. If the concrete has to come to the site where the concreting is supposed to happen, we make use of a transit mixer. Yeah. Next is about the chutes. We have seen that. So these are those long chutes. This is also a mode of transportation. Okay. Next is belt conveyors. So you have seen this. These are called as belt conveyors. Usually, whenever we prepare the concrete, right? If you want to take the fine aggregates, or let us say coarse aggregate, with the help of this conveyor belt, we try to carry them. Next is pumps. So these are the pumps, like I mentioned. These are the pumps. Usually for the big construction and all, we try to make use of these pumps. Yeah. So again, next are tower cranes. You can see this is called as tower. It looks like a tower, isn't it? So these are tower crane. So this is usually used when we have a high-rise structure, let us say a G+25, a G+26 story buildings. So in that case, it's difficult for me to bring my materials from the ground floor to the 26th floor. And when we work in the bigger construction companies, we'll be having different towers. Let us say this is tower 1, tower 2, tower 3, tower 4. I want to bring the material from tower 1 to tower 3. It's difficult for me to, take the material from there and take the staircase and come to the 26th floor. Instead of that, we are going to arrange one tower crane here, and this tower crane is going to carry the materials from here, and it's going to bring in this tower. You can see it here. These are called as tower crane. With the help of this also, you can do the transportation of the concreting also. That also possible. Yeah. Now you can see all these things. So again, all these are the different ways of placing the concrete. You see, a kind of some retaining or something is going to happen here. And you can see, look at the machine, and through this you're going to pump the concrete. This is a usual what we use when we install the pump with the help of a transit mixer, and we have this machine. Okay, with this from here the concrete is going to pass. Again, you can see here, look at this machine. You have a transit mixer attached to this. So this transit mixer will pass the concrete here, and through this you're pumping the concrete and placing it. Similarly, you can see it here, right? Yeah. Even if you had observed in the initial, whenever when I started my lecture, you see here, look here how they are placing the concrete, isn't it? Maybe it's a big stadium, I feel, what they are doing, and see how they are placing the concrete, right? So these are the different ways. So again, it all depends, okay, based on the requirement we try to do. In India, usually we don't go with such high instruments, I mean high what you call places and all. And this is called as boom placer. Okay, you can see here, this is a boom what we have, and you are going to place the concrete, hence it is called as boom placer. Again, these are the different ways of pouring the concrete and all. Okay, it is called as a truck mounted concrete pump. That means this pump will be attached to this. You have to attach a transit mixer to this, and from here you're going to pour the concrete. So it is attached to the truck, and this is called as front loading transit mixer. This is very good. See, this is the front of the vehicle, right? And from here itself you are pouring the concrete. So hence it is called as front loading transit mixer. This is called as gyratory concrete spreader. That means your concrete pump is attached to this, and with the help of this, keeping this stationary, you can try to rotate it anywhere you want, and you can place the concrete, right? So all these things are different ways of transportation or placing of concrete. Of course, this thing we already seen about the transit mixer. Now comes the very important thing, that is the tips for the young engineers. Let us say you're working in a project, and this is the first time you are doing the slab casting in your life. Then what all things you need to keep? First is, slab concreting is the most crucial part of the construction. The entire load of the above floor will come on that. We already seen. Practical at a site, slab casting will take around 4 hours. Usually I've written it wrong. Let me take it out. Okay, 4 hours, it's a very small time. You cannot do 4 hours. It has to be at least, let me write for 8 hours. Okay, yeah, I'll write 8 hours. 8 hours, and let us say up to even 12 hours I'm gonna take this. Okay, so we have seen that we had seen two slab casting. One took almost 2 days. It took more than around 38 to 40 hours. The other one took somewhere close to 10 hours. While casting a slab, proper prior inspection should be done, checking like the strength of the slab. We already seen that. Our carpenter and the bar bender must be always ready, because I mentioned you that if your shuttering fails, or let us say something happens, so you want a carpenter there. So a carpenter and bar bender is also required, because sometimes what happens while placing the concrete, or maybe when you're taking the wheelbarrows and all, the chances that whatever binding you have done, they may come up. I mean, the binding wire may not be properly tied, so it will loosen up. Again, you require a bar bender so that he'll quickly fix all those things. During slab concreting, forget about the lunch and all. Be ready to toil for the whole day. Why I'm telling this is that when the first time when I worked, we had a slab concreting. It started at 7 o'clock in the morning. We were present at the site at 6:30 in the morning, and that concreting went till 10 o'clock at night. And we had our lunch around 4 or 5 o'clock in the evening, because usually 1 o'clock is the time what we go for the lunch. But that day we had a lunch around 4 or 5 o'clock in the evening. So that is why you cannot tell that my time has come, I'll go for the lunch and come, because you are in charge of that particular site. And if something happens tomorrow, you are held responsible for that. So for one day of your life, try to forget about lunch, let all the slab concreting happen, and then you can enjoy that. So why I'm telling this is that, see, during the slab casting, we engineers should be very careful and make sure that laborers don't add any extra water in the concrete on the arrival of RMC truck. That means when the transit mixer reaches to the site, what will happen? Already it's a concrete what we have. In that concrete, whatever cement is required, whatever sand is required, whatever aggregate is required, how much amount of water should be added, everything will be put up, and finally the concrete is going to reach the site. So sometimes if your concrete workability is not good, workability in the sense whenever you pour the concrete, no, the concrete has to flow on its own. You don't have to put the external pressure. Sometimes when the slump is very less, when your concrete is little stiff, then it is very difficult for the laborers to pull the concrete. So usually what laborers tell is that add little more water. Even though we already added water, this transit mixer also will have a small pump. I mean, I'll have a small water tank in that. So through that, you can add additional water to that. So these laborers will insist transit mixer driver to add additional water. So that what will happen, the moment you add more water, your concrete will become flowable. If concrete is flowable, it will be easy for the laborers to pull the concrete, and they don't have to put so much of energy. But we need to understand one thing as the engineers. The moment we add extra water to the concrete, the strength of the concrete decreases, right? So adding more water is fun for the laborers, but it's a nightmare for the civil engineer. So because the moment you increase the water content, the strength of your concrete is going to come down. So always don't try to add any additional water into the concrete. Whatever water we have added at the time of mixed design, or maybe at the time of preparing a concrete, that is the final water. I don't want to add any extra water into that. So what is the logic behind this? We'll see that. Yeah. First, we'll try to understand this. See here. What you can see on the x-axis, we have a water cement ratio, and on the y-axis, we have a 28 days compressive strength of the concrete, right? Now, if you try to observe this particular graph, see here. Yeah. So what is happening? This is decreasing something like this, isn't it? This is decreasing something like this, right? So that means as and when my water cement ratio increases, what is happening? My strength is coming down. So what is the physical significance of this? For example, let us say you have prepared a concrete, okay? And in that, let us consider I have a 0.45. Okay, we'll go in this way. Let us say I have prepared a concrete, which is M30 grade of a concrete, okay? Now corresponding to the M30 grade, I'll plot it. So this is M30, okay? This is M30, M20, M10, M40 and all. Corresponding to the M30, what is the water cement ratio that I'm requiring? So my water cement ratio will come somewhere here. Agree with me? So this is actually 0.5. This is 0.5. I mean, this is 4.45. This is 0.50. Can I say that this is around 0.47, or let us say 0.65, or okay, we'll say this is 0.6. I'll mention this as 0.6. Okay, this is a water cement ratio that I've added while preparing the mixed design. Got it? Now, I wanted a strength of M30, so that is why I'm getting M30 now. So let us say this particular concrete has come to the site, and let us say these laborers are trying to add more and more water. So if I add more and more water, what will happen? Your water cement ratio increases. Very simple, because water cement ratio in the sense it is W. W is water divided by cement. This is equal to 0.46. Now, if I increase the water is in the numerator, right? If I increase the water, obviously this ratio will increase. Very simple, right? So what has happened? Since we added a lot of external water, so the water cement ratio, which was 0.46, let us say it came out to be how much? Let us say it came out to be 0.5. Now, it came out to be 0.5 since I added more water. Now, if I try to check the corresponding strength for this 0.5, if I try to connect it here, what is the strength I'm getting? I'm getting it even less than M30 because this is M30, M20. Can I say this strength is somewhere close to, let us say M28? Shall I say that? Yeah, because if this is M30, let us say this is somewhere close to M28. Agree with me? So what has happened? You had designed your concrete for M30, but by the time it came to the site and when you started to add a lot of water into the concrete, it was supposed to gain M30, but it is practically on the site where what is happening? M28 grade is achieved. So what has happened? Adding more and more water has decreased the strength of your concrete. So that is why I told whenever you pour the concrete, don't add any additional water. See, a little amount of water is okay. A small amount of water if you add so that it will be easy for the laborers, it's okay. It's not that what few people do. No? When we used to practice, when we used to work as a site engineer, the moment the transit mixer arrives, these people will insist the driver to add a lot of water. They don't even check the slump of that. Directly they'll add a lot of water so that it is easy for them to place the concrete and the work will be done. But we know the concept. We are the engineers in charge. We know the concept. The moment water cement increases, the strength is going to come down. And practically also I have taught you here, right? So that is why don't try to add lot water into the concrete so that you can finish your job early. Got it? Yeah. So these are the main important thing that I wanted to convey. I'll be trying to play. Yeah, we'll go with one small video. Hope this video plays. Okay, we'll see how the slab failure has happened here. See here, they were doing the concreting work and suddenly you can see all the shuttering, whatever they had given, everything is failed now, right? So why these things happen? One is that maybe the shuttering, whatever they had placed, the shuttering, the levels, I mean, the props, whatever they had given, no, that was not at a particular distance. And also the height of that props was very long. Like if this is a 11-meter height, almost if it is a 11 or 12 feet height, they are not given any horizontal attachment to that. Usually what happens if it is a very long slab and all, whenever you give these props, you have to give a proper base plate to that. We have seen what is base plate, isn't it? In this way, we have to give a support so that the load transfers. And then if it is a very long, then try to connect this with the next prop so that what will happen? Load transfer will happen properly. So here, by looking at the slab, it is easily understood the props, whatever they are placed, isn't it? You can see, look at the height of this vertical and all these are the wooden bullies, what they use. There's no MS pipe. MS pipe can take a lot of weight compared to the wooden bullies, right? So that is why this failure happened. Got it? Yeah. So you can see a lot of failures here. See here how the failure has happened. Look here how the failure has happened. Look here. So if such kind of failure happens, of course, there's a loss of concrete because whatever concrete you have put, all the concrete has gone into waste. Whatever time you had spent in making this slab, because it will take you more than 10 to 15 days to prepare a slab because you have to put the column, beam bottom, slab centering, then reinforcement work, everything. It's almost a 10 to 12 days of a work. Everything, whatever energy you had put to prepare or to come up to this, everything has gone in vain. A lot of concrete has got wasted. Your time has got wasted, your money, the resource, everything. And also, but let us say it took 12 days for you to do this slab casting. All the 12 days, whatever time you had spent, your project is getting delayed by 12 days. So that is why even whenever you pour the concrete, one day before, try to check everything. Even if you delayed by one day, no issues, but make sure you are giving 200% of yours so that everything is checked and we don't want such kind of failure to happen, right? So that is why this is very important. So I hope you have enjoyed the lecture up to here. We are understood everything about the slab casting, the failure methods, what all checks we are supposed to do, right? And in the next lecture, we'll try to see about the curing and the other part. So we'll see you back in the next lecture. Thank you.